before I invite them. As you all will be aware, the national legislature has been on their break. But the President, His Excellency President WAEC, has already issued a proclamation calling them back for a special session. That session is set to commence this Thursday and will run until September 19. It is called in response to critical national issues, including the proposed recast budget that requires immediate attention and that cannot be kept waiting until the regular legislative session to resume in October. The proclamation that was issued in accordance with Article 32B of the Nigerian Constitution, which grants the President the authority to extend or call a special section of the legislature upon receiving a certificate signed by at least 1/4 of the total membership of each chamber of the House and Senate. That certificate has been duly received by the President, which has now prompted the extraordinary session of the legislature. The President has emphasized the importance of this session because matters of national interest and those that concern the welfare of the people will always be prioritized by the government. There are about 3 weeks that is expected to be used to provide an opportunity for the legislature to act on key concerns affecting the national fiscal stability and the development agenda. And so, just so you know, the legislature will be back beginning this coming Thursday. The government started the anti-corruption drive. It is something that we take very seriously. And we said here over and over at the press conference that no amount of threat about resistance, no amount of restriction as to how people see and call it, make us to change course. And it is not something that, say, President WAEC or the executive is trying to impose. We do have statutory institutions of government, like the LACC, the GSC, the IAA, all of the institutions that are supposed to play key roles as far as accountability is concerned. All we're doing is to bring them the space and the independence to do their work. And they've been proceeding very well. Of course, as you all may know recently, the LACC, having done some background investigation concerning the supplementary payroll at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, invited the former minister to answer some questions as it relates to what they believe are some issues concerning that situation. We know that he appeared, but then we've just learned as a government that after that appearance, he has taken flight to the High Court and has requested the court to prohibit the investigation that was commenced. It is important for you to know some of the things that were being investigated. There were allegations of payroll departing and acts of corruption resulting from salary payment affecting the supplementary payroll containing 728 names at the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. The supplementary payroll was allegedly created outside of the framework of the Civil Service Agency, and that is according to the LACC. In their communication to Mr. McGee, they accepted that details of the allegation revealed that the supplementary payroll was created under the instruction of the former minister, and that the process was marred by irregularities amounting to payroll partnering, administrative malpractice, and act of corruption, among others. He was cited by the LACC on August 21st. He honored the invitation. However, we've learned that he has filed a petition for an alternative rate of prohibition before the Honorable Supreme Court, among other things, to inhibit, restrain, and prohibit the LACC from proceeding with their investigations against him. His principal argument is that he was a principal assistant to the former president at the time of the alleged Corruption Act, and that if there were acts of corruption surrounding the payroll pardon process that the LACC is investigating, those acts were committed at the behest of the former president. And according to him, since the former president is constitutionally immune from prosecution, he, as a principal assistant to the then president who acted on the instruction of the president, is immune from any kind of investigation, whatever, as long as the president cannot be investigated. He too, as principal assistant, should not be investigated. We are told that is the argument. His argument also goes to the extent to say that he acted on the orders of the president, who is constitutionally immune, and therefore he too is. Well, we want to state that we will respect the process that has unfolded since he went to the court. We commend him for doing so. Maybe if we're taking everything to the court, the situation we experienced the other day in Sinko would never have been experienced. So we commend him for that. And that while we allow the legal process to take place as a government, we have our own thought process. And that we believe that there is no immunity for unlawful acts, especially for agents who claim to act on behalf of their principals. I mean, assuming President Walker just called me and said, go and shoot Devil Zoo. I know that shooting Devil Zoo and killing him is a crime. It's an act that is unlawful. Should I kill him and come back and say, I did it upon the instruction of President Walker and therefore I should be immune from persecution? The reasoning doesn't look okay to us. So we believe that he does not have the entitlement that he's claiming unto himself. When you are an officer or agent of the state, you are simply under obligation to obey lawful orders. When an order is unlawful, you have a legal duty to refrain because your conduct will not be protected by law. So the Ministry of Justice, the LACC and the court will be left to absorb the state of this case, and we are hoping that in the end, somebody will be held accountable. I mean, let's look at the reasoning as I lay this issue to rest. There's an accusation against you. You believe you are innocent. And the only way that can be used to establish that you are an innocent person is to allow the law to take its course. But you said, no, don't do no investigation, leave it. Because I was protected from doing what I did. In our thinking as a government, it is a kind of admission of guilt. In other words, you're saying, I did this thing, but I did it upon the instruction of this person. And sometimes as a country, we are quick to forget. You all follow the Brandon Samuka situation. There's a lot of noise about that as to whether what he did was ordered by the former president, and he was held accountable. You won an election, you should have been seated. His victory was reversed because of what he was reported to have done. Of course, some people say upon the orders of the person who was his boss there. And the same people who executed those things come back today and they want to turn the wheel around. When it suits you, it's okay. So we believe that the right thing will be done. Our team will go to the Supreme Court as requested, and the necessary arguments will be raised, and we'll see where we'll go from there. But what it tells us is that someone somewhere guilty, afraid, does not want to be held accountable, and they say, oh, good, stop them from investigating me. We're not sure that's how it works. And as a government and as a team, we are not sure that we're allowed to work that way, but again, the court will decide, because we all should respect the court, particularly the Supreme Court. The next and maybe final issue I want to talk about is what many of you called me about over the weekend, and I said if we should have something to say about it, say at the press conference. And you all wanted to know what the government thinks about the fact that the former president wrote ECOWAS, basically complaining about different issues. We know there was an issue in the DEA and police officials are yet going to talk about it in a small town community. I'm sure when they come back, they will give you a clear picture as to what happened. They've said it before, but you'll hear more of that. And so, relying on that incident, the former president writes, accusing police of invading or raiding his headquarters. I'm not sure that's what happened. They are here, they will explain. Initially, some of the party officials were saying people died. I expected that you journalists would have held them to account for the things they say. When a human being dies, the body does not turn to spirit. You will see the body. But these are all part of the strategy to make this place to look ungovernable, to spread lies and falsehood, so that it excites or incites people to do the wrong thing. Maybe if they chosen that part of writing the very letter from the beginning, we would not have seen what we saw happening. That letter goes on to talk about other things, targeting people in civil service, putting them down. You want to make the CDC to disappear. You want to break the party down. The president that was elected has a huge job to do, because this country was almost non-existent in the last 6 years. To put it back together requires full attention. And no one who wants to reverse the kind of situation we find ourselves in will be wasting their time running behind a political party. It has so much to do. So those kinds of loose and reckless allegations, they're not things that we're allowed to just pass through, because we have an obligation to ensure that the public is not misinformed. If police did not raid your compound and you say they did it, we have an obligation to come and say you lied. If nobody died in a particular fracas and you say somebody died, we have to come and say you lied. If people that you appointed in these anti-graft institutions who are doing their work, you try to portray them as agents of a group of leaders who you say want to wish on you and we know they are lying, we'll say you're lying. But there's one other positive side about it. I think they were right. Trying to recognize an institution that they have disrespected somewhere during the last 6 years they were in office. When Liberian citizens who felt aggrieved and offended by their action went to the very ECOWAS through some of their institutions. And they said, this is what you done wrong, correct it. Did they act? Was Cabinet Jammeh paid as ruled by the ECOWAS court? Was Nancy Doe paid as ruled by the ECOWAS court? It is the same ECOWAS, so much so disrespected in 6 years, that you not expect to be an authority that you can go to. It's good. And see, the difference is, we are a responsible member of the Committee of Nations, including our affiliation with ECOWAS. So when people take redress to ECOWAS, and they adjudicate those concerns and they come back to us with recommendations, unlike you, we listen. So it's a good thing that you now see ECOWAS as an entity you are supposed to respect, when you didn't respect them yesterday. This attempt to create a kind of semblance of this country being a lawless state will not suffice. And you can hear all you want. And we'll come and say the truth. They don't have the intellectual capacity to discuss the issues. What do? They go and insult. That's normal for some of us now. If you can insult the president of the country and everybody else, who cares about your insult to an individual like us? We're not in an insult battle with you. We're here to inform the Liberian people about happenings in the country, because that is the responsibility for the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs, and Tourism. And with me, as the supreme leader, the commandant of this place, supported by all these great men and women, we not falter in our responsibility. We keep our charge, we keep it effectively, not propagandists. I've said when I went for confirmation hearing, when I come to the Ministry of Information, I will come to communicate, because government should not be involved in propaganda. We just got to be factual. Be consistent with that. And if you think strategy is to manufacture lies 24/7, you have a team that will take charge of that 24/7. Having said that, let me invite the Minister of Finance, Acting Minister of Finance for Development Planning, Minister Myers. Minister Meyer is done. The acting head of the LDEA will immediately come over. And then the police acting IG will come over, and after that, you will have the opportunity to ask some questions. Minister Meyer.
Thank you very much, Sophia, and members of the MICAT management team. And we say thank you to our friends in the media. And we say good afternoon to Liberians at home and abroad. We've come to acquaint you with recent developments in our fiscal management space, as well as our macroeconomic developments. So there are three main things that we'll speak to this afternoon. And the first one is, if you check on the IMF website today, you will see a press release indicating that they and us, that is the Liberian Financial Management Authorities, i.e. Ministry of Finance and Central Bank of Liberia, have reached what they call staff level agreement, which means at the management level of the IMF, we have agreed with them to resume the extended credit facility. So what is left now is for the management to take the proposal for this 40-month or 3.5-year project, financial management reform project, to the board of the IMF, which will meet on September 25th. Now, what is the ECF? What the ECF does is it provides, as the name indicates, credits to bridge financial gaps, to close financial gaps. And some of these gaps, for example, are the central bank reserves. The central bank reserves are used for two main purposes. One, to keep the financial sector stable. All the commercial banks, at one point or the other, they run low on their own reserves. And the central bank can give them short-term facility until they rebuild their reserve and pay back. All of us here almost have a bank account. And you will not want to wake up one day and hear that your bank has closed. And you know what that means for you financially. So the extended credit facility will ensure that the central bank has sufficient reserve to stabilize the financial sector. And another benefit of the ECF is to support our balance of payment. Liberia is a country where most of our commodities that we use in all categories, whether consumables or non-consumable commodities, are imported. you want to talk about rice, you want to talk about petroleum, all the clothes that we are wearing here are all imported, and even all your gadgets. And these have to be funded with foreign exchange. Business people who bring in these goods need to acquire foreign exchange. And they have to get it through their banks or other business transactions. So the foreign reserve, which will be supported and buttressed by the ECF, will help us to ensure that we have regular amount of foreign exchange to finance our international payments, whether it's financing imports or international transactions like our debt payment to other institutions and etc. And also on the macroeconomic front, it will help to stabilize our exchange rate, because once it is known that there is sufficient amount of foreign exchange for the central bank to use in intervening in the financial sector, it will be very hard for business people or other individuals to go on the black market to look for US dollar, which thereby drives the exchange rate up. And when the exchange rate goes up, it goes up with inflation, because the cost of imports become high, and therefore their prices in Liberian dollar also becomes high. So that is one important benefit of the ECF. How did we get here? I will say briefly. So in December 2023, then President-elect Joseph Yuma Boakai asked that he wanted Liberia to re-engage with the fund and to resume the ECF program, because it was started in 2019 under the previous administration. And in this room a few weeks ago, someone asked me the question about the inflation and other things. At that time, between 2019 and 2022, when the ECF was in place, our exchange rate was stable, inflation was low. But in 2022, when the previous authorities failed in meeting the requirements of keeping the program going, the program was suspended. In fact, it collapsed. And we saw exchange rate going up, we saw inflation rate going up, we saw import prices rising. So in February, the IMF fielded a special mission, an assessment mission, to come and engage with authorities of the Ministry of Finance, the CBO, and other key institutions of government. And it was agreed in that assessment meeting that yes, the country will be ready to resume the ECF program. And so all the documentations were prepared, we exchanged the necessary information and data, and in July, a full-fledged debt instrument. And it also affected the ability of the banks or contractors especially to access credits from the banks to finance critical projects. So part of the recast process required raising the amount that was allocated for domestic debt by almost 100%. So those are the three cardinal requirements on the fiscal side, which were all accomplished. As you remember, the minister mentioned, we submitted a recast budget 2 weeks ago. Yes, a copy of it is now with the legislature. And when they resume this week, it's going to be one of the key national issues that we'll be discussing. And in the recast budget, all the adjustments to the various critical lands have been made, and it's now before the legislature to deliberate on. Then on the monetary side, there were issues about credits extended to various commercial banks, some of which you are familiar with in the media, 2 banks, and the issue was whether or not the CBO acted legally in the context of their own acts and the rules that govern those kind of transactions. So to all intents and purposes, negotiations are still ongoing between, on the one hand, the CBL and those 2 banks, and then between the CBL and the MFDP. Because at the end of the day, the CBL is the government's bank. When they have difficulties with their reserve position, the Ministry of Finance will be compelled to support. All banks can fail, but the central bank of any country should now fail. So that conversation is ongoing, but what has accelerated the process to bring us this far is the fact that the president took decisive actions with regard to changing the management of the central bank. So our colleagues at the front, the IMF, were concerned whether the management team then were really committed to undertaking the kind of radical changes or radical reforms that was needed. Not reform as to changing anything, but simply putting the bank back on track in performing its legislated duties, functioning as it was meant to function. We've heard the other report, we read about it, where over-the-counter transactions exceeded 170 plus millions. Those central bank does that. And then the next thing was to review how the central bank supports and supervise commercial bank generally. So in the case of one of the bank, SRB, for example, the CBO is going to tighten the management, not take over the bank. No, they're going to rather do more closer regulatory supervision of the bank to ensure that decisions taken at the bank do not run contrary to the procedures required for the functions of the bank. So, what needs to be done now with respect to the next step forward, having reached the start level agreement? So, the Ministry of Finance representing the government, the Ministry of Finance and the CBL representing the financial governance of the country, we have to submit a formal letter requesting for the resumption of the program. And this is a letter that will be taken to the vote on September 25th for approval. And then there are various technical recommendations which are mainly related to the functions of the MFDP and the CBL that we've agreed changes that have to be made. And I must tell you also, while the two entities will be leading, there are requirements for other institutions of government that kind of underpin the PFM process that we will be coordinating as well. The details are too numerous, we don't want to bore you with that. And then just a few items, the ECF. What will it benefit the country? I highlighted the monetary aspect, for example, supporting the reserve positions and facilitating our international payment and stabilizing the exchange rate. So one of the things that when we're happy is it more like restore or improve our credit rating in terms of our ability to do prudent fiscal management. Because agreeing to the terms of the ECF signals that both the Finance Ministry and the Central Bank of Liberia are ready to undertake financial management in a way that is responsible, in a way that is prudent, in a way that is judicious. Judicious means consistent with the legal principles governing those two institutions. So once you do that, you open the door for direct water support, you open the door for low interest concessional loans, you open the door to other non-financial technical cooperation, because our partners out there will begin to see that, oh yeah, there are serious people in charge. There are serious people who are ready to manage their own resources well. So therefore we can trust them with our own resources, The second one is that it provides opportunity for external support to the implementation of the President's agenda, the arrest agenda. As you know, we've already concluded the national and local consultations. The drafting of the plan is now in process. We are expecting it to be ready to be linked to 2025 budget so that expenditures will be in line with the plans for 2025 to 2029. So the ECL program provides resource opportunity for that. And in addition to the supporting the financial sector, it also provides, remember I said, to bridge financial gaps. There are economic potential in the country. local and international investors will want to venture in any of these areas, agenda, for example, whether agriculture, whether road, and other economic ventures. The facility under the ECF can be used by the central bank to facilitate medium and long-term credits into viable economic projects that will make returns to be used to replenish whatever will be used. So in a way, in addition to financial management improvement, it also help to tap into the potential of the economy. And they also help to increase our allocation with other financial institutions. You hear about the International Development Association. We'll talk about the issue later on, how we defaulted, quote unquote. Allocation from the African Development Bank, from the International Finance Corporation, and other institutions that lend low interest loans or give grants. This project, this program will increase the allocation that Liberia has in this institution. And like I mentioned, also donor confidence, to improve donor confidence. Now to the debt, and to this I will just speak to it broadly, and my colleague, Mr. Zuo, will give you a big old teacher, and he's in charge of debt management. Now the issue of debt, if we default, no. Again, as Minister Pierre mentioned, we are still confronting legacy issues from the past. In addition to over-the-counter transactions, when the Central Bank of Liberia or any country makes international transfers, it should not be to my personal account. If it is to my personal account, it should be legitimately authorized. Maybe I'm on a foreign tour and I'll be there for a while and I have to set up an account to do all my transactions in. But not to my family, not to friends, not to purchase my cars or any commodity abroad. So previously, we were making transfers throughout the week, Monday to Friday. And through that, we will make transfer to our embassies abroad, make transfer to our creditors as we settle the debt on a periodic basis. But because of the irregularities at the central bank, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, which is the CBO's corresponding bank in the States, restricted the transfer window to 2 days a week, Friday and Wednesday. So what that means is that the due dates for certain payment, even if we have the cash, sometimes may not coincide with the transfer date allowable. And I can give you an instance where the Controller and Accountant General, Mr. Nettie, actually captured the picture of a check that was ready to be paid to one of our lenders. He sent it by screenshot to the country manager. And they said, no, what they are interested in is a SWIFT code. Unfortunately, that was not on the transfer date. So when people go around, say the government of Liberia or the Prime Minister defaulted, you got to be there. And to be frank, most of you here were police at a certain point in the media. People are not doing what you should do. The Minister of Finance is down on Broad Street. There is a media director of Patience. You know, capturing information on Facebook and publishing it is not right for this country. The last time I stood here, I talked about something called the signaling effect. Certain information, when it goes out, the economic implications is worse than you think. International economic issues or even domestic economic issues, you should have the facts. Conveyors of wrong information are equally guilty of whatever consequences it causes. We didn't default. We are on time with our payment. And secondary information that you need to know. The over for the 5 million that we are paying this year, more than 50% of that is for debt that was scheduled to be paid in 2023, but were not paid. portion for raise, and they didn't pay the debt. Because the creditor, all of us, if you have a loan with the bank, you have Monday scheduled for payment. So all the payments, or most of the payments that was scheduled for 2023 were not paid. The 45+ million of this year, 23 million are for what was to be paid last year. So who defaulted? Not us. You know who defaulted. So you can just take 5 minutes to briefly talk about any issue on the debt that they didn't cover, a big more detail. But before I step down, we invite you, Patience is here, no problem. You'll be visiting us and get a fax. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I know Mr. Myers has actually said all, but this is something important for this country for the public to know. Most often, Liberian would think that because we deal with cash all of the time, we are the rich people. But globally, people look at you when you are able to live up to your commitment and what we call credit, and also tap your credibility for whatever you do. President WAEC took over this year. You know that the Unity Party-led government actually led like the debt after 4.2 billion have been waived during the administration. The entire 12 years, the government accumulated 851 billion debt. You'll be surprised as Liberian, but let me say this to you. In 6-year period, CDC-led government accumulated 1.5 billion debt. And you and I can search all around here to see whether the money that was disbursed, whatever was accumulated as debt, you can see it physically, or you can even find anyone who can tell you, say, this is a major investment. Something that all of us are supposed to be aware of, especially the young generation. I'm emphasizing on the young generation because I'm in my 50s. I've struggled and I've graduated from the lower level of poverty based on what I can earn today. But if I don't manage it well, my children, my generation will be responsible to pay whatever life I live today. And that's what is happening to this country. So as Mr. Meyer said, we inherited huge amount, 2.6 billion debt. And we have to do it cautiously to build the credibility of this nation by reassuring our partners and telling them that we pay your money on time, give us time to do this. And that is something that all of us here did not know, and people are just passing the street with it. Can you imagine we are sitting here today as Liberia, spending more than $44 million just to pay debt? It means we are foregoing all the things we're supposed to use, money we're supposed to use to build hospitals, to actually build schools, to provide food for children, even for prisoners. We forego it because someone had actually spent this money before, which of course all of us here are supposed to be asking ourselves, how are we using our money? Besides the argument of defaulting, which I don't want to go to the minister actually explain it to us. One of the issues I just want to bring it to the press today in Liberia is that many of us have seen it across the country. If we don't listen to what the president told us as manager of the economy, we're going to land into the wrong hand. The money that is given today by the IMF, $2.6 million to build our reserve, is because just October last year or December last year, the government took 83 million from the reserve of this country, in addition to other money, just to pay civil servants. We all believe that? It means that, let me just get a simple illustration to the Liberian people who are listening to me. You see, Reducing your reserve is almost like having low blood as a human being. When your blood is low, what happens to you? You tend to get sick. And that means you will not function well. It's always important for you to protect your reserve. And this is the reason why this administration has fought very hard to go on the ECF program to make sure that we have our reserve protected, we have better macroeconomic functioning of the state, that the economy remains stable, that you and I cannot go out of money to spend on productive activity for this country. So that's a little emphasis I want to give on the debt issue. Is in addition to that, we have a situation in this country that even the domestic debt, we're talking about estimate. The domestic debt we inherited is so huge. Out of 2.6, $1 billion is actually domestic debt. If you check, what it simply does is that people who are making businesses, we're taking away money from them, we are stopping our Liberian businesses. They won't be effective at all. It will reduce the possibility of people even employing people. Some people will work today and they will not take place because government owes them. And there are some contractors who actually were doing construction work for this country, but they could not even redeem whatever commitment they made to banks, and their assets were seized. How can you live in an economy like that? You say you're managing it, or simply because few people want to have cash in their pocket and stop for other people, and that's one of the reasons why we call it rescue mission, and we are here to rescue this economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pia and the MICAT family. It's good to be here at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, in addition to the government of Liberia's statement released on August 22nd, 2020, regarding the incident in small town community, the LDEA on August 21, 2024, applied for a search and seizure warrant to the West Point Magisterial Court regarding the property identified in small town community. As a result of this application, the search and seizure warrant was issued on August 21, 2024, and that said warrant was accompanied by 2 officers of the Western Magisterial Court who joined the LDEA agent on August 22, 2024 to execute the warrant at the intended property in small town community, Town. They informed that when the LDEA team arrived at the small town community and was making its way to the intended property, the team got violently resisted by suspected community members who pelted stones and at one point fired at the agents. At this point, between 5:30 to 5:45, the agents maneuvered and pulled out as there were already roadblocks staged along the Bernard V route as well as the Tottenham Boulevard in front of the CDC headquarters. As a result of these resistances, 2 agents of the LDEA sustained injuries. And we can show you these pictures. You can see them. They were taken to the JFK Medical Center where they were treated, discharged, but continued to seek daily follow-up treatment with that facility, which then speedy recovery. Regarding the issue of the warrant, the LDEA agent in charge of the operation did submit an application to the West Point Magisterial Court, whose ministerial officers processed the warrant and represented to the agents of the readiness of the warrant, which was accompanied by 2 officers of said court. The warrant was directed to a particular target in the small town community and not the Congress for Democratic Change. We say this again. The warrant was directed to a particular target in the small town community and not the CBC. The issue of jurisdiction is always raised before the courts. It is a usual legal practice, but here the writ was not served because of the violent resistance. However, the agency is now doing its after action review to ensure that it doesn't only rely on representation of court ministerial officers regarding the processing and issuance of writs as done in this case. And then in other development, on August 21, 2024, the agency arrested an Ivorian on St. 18th Street who was in possession of kush and heroin amounting to US 117,000. He's getting investigated, charged, and sent to court. Since we talk about the agency from June to date, we've been able to seize about drugs value about 1.5 million US dollars. I think that should be a breaking news, right? So this is the agency efforts to reduce, to contribute to supply reduction by ensuring that traffickers, dealers, distributors, the capacity to trade drugs are weakened and diminished. Today, the LDEA has also secured 13 convictions across the country. We got 9 convictions in Lofa, 3 in River G, and 1 in Bapolo of drug suspects, those who were arrested and sent to court. So the DEA remains committed to combating drugs, related crimes in affected communities across the country, and call on everyone to join the agency's effort. Thank you. We'll be standing by for the questions subsequently.
So before I begin with nobody died on Thursday, August 22nd. Nobody enters the compound. And that one is going so large. Thank you for the invite. And good afternoon, everybody. King Solomon says that wisdom is better than strength. And this means that it's better to be wise and be strong. Wisdom is the ability to use knowledge and experience to make good judgment and good decisions. And this is what we did on August 22nd, 2024, last Thursday. On Thursday, August 22nd, 2024, at about 5:10 a.m., at about 5:10 a.m., we received a call from the field that some of our officers, traffic officers, that are usually deployed on the Tunnel Boulevard every morning at 4 o'clock to control traffic, get the free flow of traffic, came on an attack on some of impressions and were manhandled. So we immediately dispatched a team of officers on the scene, and it was confirmed that 2 of our officers, Agosin Jankolo, patrolman, and patrolman Jaya Masai, Jaya Mali, Jaya Mali. They were manhandled with their personal effect, cell phone, money, even their uniforms were all taken off. Upon our arrival, there were reports of stone throwing on vehicles lying in the boulevard. Cars were smashed, and you can see the picture right here. We received a complaint from one Mr. Mohammed Masade, who with contact number 0775988665 with license plate number A114252. We came at a car wash area at Oro Junction, Oro and Boulevard Junction, and filed a complaint that his car was smashed while heading to Kingsville around 5:30 in the morning. But when you usually look at in the morning to carry market here to read that to the market to the town. So while on his way, this soon started occurring. His car was smashed. He's very confused with the police. If you look on the board here, his picture is there. His car number is there, his license plate number is there, his cell phone number is there. You can contact him if you wish to. It was at this point we were informed that the LDEA, the Law Enforcement Agency, has gone in a small town community around Bonat Beach to conduct a raid, and that they were overpowered by residents of that community and ran after them onto the main boulevard or the main thoroughfare. And when they got on the main thoroughfare, and the DEA also retreated, then they started throwing stones and making roadblocks and burning tires in the street. So we were also informed that those who came on the road initially and abducted two our officers, Jala and Augustine, are retreated back to the CEC compound. And that we do not allow our men to stay at large. If you go out of the waterfront and one of the men is missing, that ensure that that man is free, that get him at what cost. Otherwise, the opportunity that you'll be blamed. So we were all saying that all was done because they are retreated to the CEC compound. We decided to go back to our command center. And what is our command center? Our command center is the ERE base where we have the water and sewer pump around the Industrial Park. So we were there monitoring the situation. Because they had left the main road and gone back into the compound, so we thought it was calm. So while then, at about 6:10 or 7 a.m. again, we got a report that they had come back on the road. Group of guys had come down the road for the same compound and making roadblocks, and this time around throwing stones all over, smashing cars again. But if you look on this board here, you see the JFA car that was going to work that morning. They had occupants on that car. They smashed this car. They had two victims from this vehicle, I think with JFK. And some of our officers, about 16 persons were wounded. And I can see that. So we being law enforcement officer, we have the mandate to maintain law and order. And you have the right to go to work. So people live in Painesville and children school in town. So people live in town and children school in Painesville. That is our commute. The road was blocked. Cars were burning all in the street. Should we sit by and look at you surprised it? No. We're taking for nothing money from you. Your taxpayer, your tax that you pay will be free. So we had to maintain the law, to restore the law, to restore order. So it was when we moved in, one, to rescue our officers, two, to restore law and order, and provide free flow of traffic for commuters, for business people. So the situation was so serious that we had to keep officers in the street throughout the night. Like if you look here, you'll see one dark picture here. This happened around 9:30. Cardiac failure, our car was smashed. Then another guy by the name of another taxi driver around 9 o'clock. His name is Nimsin Coco, TX06215. Telephone number 0777-6596-9643. He also reported as on 3. Come on down. This is his car. You can see the broken blocks here on the wood. I personally took this picture because our commander wanted to while they're monitoring the situation and what is called. So this guy was hit while just going around 9 after we thought it was calm. While going home, the passengers in the car, so like that, in the same compound again and just smashed his car. While some and did a complaint. Then by 9:30, it happened to cardiac failure. But when Nissan Jeep was towed again, it's a genuine of a car. So what the incident was reported. So we had to keep our men in the street up to 10, 11, 12. That ensure that we monitor the situation. So we want to urge every citizen and residents to refrain from the act of violence. As it is, and by doing this, we're definitely doing harm to ourselves. We also want to assure the general public and the police to continue to remain professional, and we are here to serve everyone and not one group of people. And let's refrain from violence. Let's take, for instance, like yesterday, there was a body form, someone on the Somalia tribe. Let's move on and block the road. Is it police responsibility to remove bodies, no transmission of health? But you block the road and deny other road users. And this is not good. We got to stop violence in this country. Go through the legal process. If you have a flaw, go to the law and seek for redress. This is what we are here for, to maintain the peace. And we'll maintain the peace at all costs, no matter what happens. We'll maintain the peace. If you want to be violent, nobody thought violent because what? Oh, nobody want to talk? So let me say here that nobody died. 1, 2, the United CDC confirmed the guy that was being portrayed on social media like that, he is a KFK, he will be discharged today, and when he discharged today, tomorrow you'll be going to put by your charge in abstention.
Prince
Samin. Prince Samin from Fielman. He's a contractor. He tells us that he was not part of the demonstrator. He was listening with the peace advocate who women are saying, oh, we want peace, we want peace. How we send just now, we say, we want peace, and we get injured. We just give an alibi. So we say this, let's refrain from violence. And let's try to be law abiding. And if we're going to keep the peace, we will maintain the peace at what cost. Thank you.
Form your queue, file your presentation. Please introduce yourself, please close the door. Please introduce yourself, share your presentation. Thank you. My name is Maurice Oleti, and I recruit for OPS. It's good to see all of you. Thank you so much for your collaboration. My first question goes to Minister Myers. Thank you so much. While you were speaking, I was able to speak with our legislative recruiter, and I observed, he told me that he observed in the recast budget that was submitted to the legislature that the budget for the Ministry of Education, Health, Agriculture, and other ministries, and the decrease. Yes. So, do you care to tell us why you formed that reduction? And to the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency, there's a rate circulating on social media, and was saying that the rate came from the West Point Court, but it was reportedly stolen. Yes, so can you tell us, and I'm talking about the DEA. I'm talking about DEA, Mr. Peters. So can you clarify who actually signed that rate, that carried the DEA at the summertime? So those are some of my questions. And maybe Minister Myers or Minister Pierre, any of them can answer. 80% of the Liberian returnees who were brought back in the country receive their their payment. But when do we expect to see? They're just a portion of them, and they receive. When do we expect the last batch to receive their payment? And lastly, there are still people at the Butuburan camp in Ghana, and I'm told that the authorities there sold the land and that they are residing on. What are follow plans of the government to bring those people back? Thank you.
Good afternoon, John Sherry here. Several institutions, including the Charles Russell Radio Monrovia Live USA. One or two, listen to you attentively. I just want you to one. Okay, so how do you juxtapose the principle of hot pursuit to what happened last week? And what about the compound of the CDC that has become so abominable that the hot pursuit, the principle of hot pursuit, cannot be pursued? Do you prefer two persons, one of whom was a former representative, defeated, to having the rest of Nigerian lives in Germany? I was on my way here last week for MICAT. Predicated upon what happened, you are not going aware that traffic will detour. So as a result, I heard the minister, I did not see him. I wanted to have seen him and asked him questions. Look, man, you guys are trained. And I'm disappointed that you did not do what you had to do. So why didn't you not use the hot pursuit? Principle of hot pursuit. Thank you.
Well, thank you. My name is Desmond Williams. I report for Macaulay. So my concern first and foremost goes TV. I don't know what. My concern goes to the Minister of Information. That's the first concern. On yesterday, I visited the camp there in Johnsonville. That's the LDEA camp, and there were so many reports about the issue about abandonment. And these people who are Liberians raise a concern. Go ahead. So, and then they also allege that they received some information from their boss, from the bosses of the FPRC, that they should instigate protests at the Ministry of Finance, because they thought it's not now with FPRC, it was the Ministry of Finance who's supposed to approve of that budget for them to be set up individually, receiving 300 USD. So I showed the Minister from Finance and also clarified that as well that came to the ministry that was released. How far it is in terms of the budget so that they can be dispatched and resettled to that. The question of one. So the LDEA, to speak about the issue about the rate, it is also being alleged that rate is stolen. I don't know as to whether, just as you did the due diligence, you displayed photos of those people who were injured or were affected. If for any reason you receive a rate from the court, don't you think it's also necessary that you could show the rate to this press, you could bring it along to the press briefing, or if it was stolen, at what point in time did they get missing? After the protest, or better still, the government before your action to the community of such arrest. And lastly, to the LMP, the police right now is being described, or one could say, like, sorry, I don't know what reckless, however, yes, because the police that's supposed to be responsible, they mature enough to protect not just the state, but the lives of the citizens of the state. And then, if the presence of police at a crime scene, in fact, one could say escalated the entire tension. Some people got affected with this to feel almost like including the pastor, but they said it was just because of the police involvement that whole thing went out of control. So, are we to believe that NFP is no longer capable to resolve these issues in terms of protection of citizens' life? If so, why? Thank you.
My name is Wesley from FM. A couple of questions to the folks from the Ministry of Finance. The budget, the Kevin law in section 19 says The budget will be made available to the public immediately following the submission of the legislation. As that delegates to Acting Minister Myers and his team. Secondly, you spoke about the ECF, the Extended Credit Facility, that the Liberian government has reached a staff agreement with the IMF. I'm concerned. We entered the ECF, or we entered an agreement with the IMF under the ECF in 2019. Of course, you explained how it ended, but then the WAEC administration has chosen to go into another arrangement, this time worth $209 million to be paid for a period. My question to you, financial administrators of the state, is this ECF a long-term solution for our financial problems? Because we seem to address short and medium-term financial issues, but long-term, it doesn't seem to mean that we're tackling the issues of job creation and, of course, poverty, if you may. That's to the financial folks. To the police, do you think your response to whatever was happening at the CDC headquarters on last Thursday was proportional to the force used by the CDC, owing to the amount of tear gas canisters fired by the police? Could that be justified as a proportionate force to the throwing of stones? To the DEA, Mr. Peters and your team, was there a spillover from your operations in small town communities in the CDC's DEA? Thank you very much.
How much?
Was there a spillover from your operations? Yeah, into it.
Thank you so much. My name is Anthony Gray, and I work for the ECOWAS region. I have two concerns. The first one is directed to the Ministry of Finance and Development. You said in 2023, speaking of default, what you said, in 2023, the monies that were to be paid by the previous administration were not paid. And you are saying that the government is not in any way default. How can we reconcile these statements that this happened in 2023 and now we are into 2024, but these monies have not been paid? Speaking of 45 million in your phone. The LDEA you charged and sent to court 13 persons with the crime of attempted murder, something that opinion leaders in the country and others have taken as political prisoners. Did you identify those individuals with weapons in their hands to, make an attempt to kill someone, that you have charged them with these crimes, attempted murders and others? Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Peter, LDEA, my name is Siwa Kwano. I'm a journalist in Liberia. My question says, when you went to the small town, you missed talent because you underestimated that you're going to be a challenge. What can you say to that? And then to the police, in recent times, you've been dismissing some police officers based on, specifically on not carrying their helmet to reinforce the traffic law. There's this magazine we used to hear in the police force before, say, police are violence to reinforce. Is there anything between violation to reinforce and then not using the helmet like dismissing it? Thank you so much. My name is Trubon Chairman. I'm from Boston and Mr. Myers, I want you to address this concern. You know, you've been acting for quite a while now, and there's this discussion that a new minister might likely be coming to take your job. Interested in this concern, whether you have interest in this job. And to just put a spin on what my colleague actually asked, the police in recent times, when there are issues to a particular place,
the appearance of the police each time seems to, exacerbate the situation. We have observed that recently at the CDC headquarters and other areas. I don't know what mechanism are you going to use to make sure that this, does not continue anymore, because what happened that day was all the businesses in that area were shut down, and the police was present, moving here back and forth with just unarmed citizens.
Good morning. Good afternoon. So this question is a question to I'm due to the colleague. I come from Parliament. Honorable Peter, your range of ghettos, what have you usually end with? Sometimes injuries, sometimes innocent civilian be trapped, sometimes murder. Do you have any plan to re-strategize as to how you carry on the rate of ghettos, and what have you out?
He's asking you to be specific with your weather claim.
Yeah. So in Bannersville, New Georgia, Johnson, around there, some of your officers went there, and then a guard got hurt and later died. He put up that and he responded to that. And then usually on Basin Street, people will get hurt. And I want to know whether you have plans to re-strategize how you go about your working without harming innocent civilians. Thank you.
All right.
So folks, as the question and answer period here at the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism, we'll now go back to the podium where the guests will respond to those concerns and questions.
Someone asked about why the recap show a decrease in the overall allocation for a number of agencies, but you highlighted 3: health, education, and agriculture. The decrease will not affect, the decrease does not affect the ability of those ministries and agencies to function, because the decreases were not to their core operational allocations, that is, goods and services and salaries. The decrease affected their appropriation for public sector investment plan, or PSRP. And the decrease, as you can recall, when we stood here after the approval of the budget, we announced that there was an additional increase of 46.5 million made by the legislature. Various assumptions and revenue over and above what the MFDP and LRA took to the legislature. We signed a caveat. In fact, the president signed a caveat that is published along with the budget. So the adjustments primarily affected the non-performing allocations, meaning allocations that are linked to the non-performance in the revenue. Because most of the underperformance in the revenue that we announced that caused a recast were on no reassessment and increases made during the budget approval process. And it went mostly to PSRP. And realistically, with 4 months left in the budget and the revenue sources for those projects not performing, it's only logical to remove those lands. So all of the adjustment I see to these 3 ministries and other entities is mainly on the PSRP projects that were planned but may not be executed in full due to a number of reasons. Primarily, the sources of revenue earmarked for those projects are not performing. 2, the procurement and other preparatory activities to enable them or to qualify expenditure or disbursement for the project are late in preparation. We have 4 more months left on the budget. So that is the information behind the decrease. So goods and services, salaries and compensation, and other operational resources for those entities remain untouched. So the ministries will now close down. There will be no pay delay, etc., etc. The RAP for returned refugees and the resettlement affected persons. We have been working with the LDEA and the Foreign Ministry even before the refugees were returned. The two institutions made several trips to Ghana. We funded these trips off budget. The batches of refugees that were returned, we funded them off budget. And even the handshake or the resettlement that are being given to those who were in Bong, those who are in Mosorado and some part of the Southeast are all being funded off budget. So there was an issue of management which we took with the LDEA. We thought they didn't do it judiciously. I don't know how many of you here, maybe let's say there are 40 or 50 journalists here, and maybe there should be some appreciation of say $100 per question. That should be $500. But MICAT can only raise maybe 400 or 300. So should you serve just 30 persons and leave 20 persons out? We made it clear to the LDEA that was not managing the situation properly. The head of every institution should be a situation manager. So whatever was the ratio of the disbursement we made to them, it should have been distributed proportionally among whoever were the number of persons affected. We expressed it to them in no uncertain terms, and we have been working with them behind the scene to find additional resources to settle the renewal of those persons who have been affected. We thought that was, in my own view, socially it was discriminatory. Because everybody affected the same way. Everybody needs food, they need soap, they need transportation, whatever it is our refugees returning need, every single individual needs it equally. So you can't settle one side 100% and leave others at 0. On the budget publication to the public, immediately, once we submit the budget to the legislature, on the same day, in fact, within the same hour, it is on our website. www.mfdp.gov.lr. It has been there since the day we made the submission. I guess we're talking about mass publication and distribution. Of course, there's resource constraint, and we also, all of us in this age of climate concern, we have our environmental concerns as well, so we manage the use of paper. However, when the budget is approved and is about to be distributed, we will make limited hard copies available, but you can access it on the internet of the ministry. The question about whether the ECF strategy is a long or short-term solution, no, it is not. About 2 weeks ago, I was on Spoon FM in the night, and I made this illustration. I said, Liberians returning to debt, where we accumulated more than 2 times in 6 years the amount of debt that was accumulated in 12 years. In fact, some of those debts accumulated in 12 years, now all creditors of the past waived their debt in 2010. Some kept their debt on the bowl, like the Arabs, for example, they said they don't do debt waiver. So there was around 200 of about debt that remained that was not waived with HIPAA. So what the UP actually added on was just around between 500 and 600 million. But like the minister mentioned, the road to Buchanan, the road to Ganto, and all the other structures, they have down. And many other things can be seen and say, yeah, this is what happened. But in the 3 million, for example, just from the central bank, from here, there, they attend by Iboma, they attend by Eton, they attend by Dubai Climate Foundation, or whatever you call it. What do we see out of it? So there is something in related my own discussion with school to what we call returning to a bad spousal relationship. A wife or husband, partner or girlfriend that had not done any good in your life, that just does nothing but to embarrass you or disgrace you. Then after a while, you go back to that relationship. So that how we are with them, we know what led this to Liberia. There is the OAU Center, right? The OAU Center. They were financed by them. Why are we getting out of it? All of our SOBs around here, they have never changed, expanded 1 meter since they were established in the 1960s and 70s. Look at the size of the Freeport. Look at LPRC. Look at the hosting. How many big hosting estates have been added? On and on and on. Look at our posts. Buchanan, Sando, Maryland Post. These were all funded by them. We didn't get anything out of it. So the question is, 1.5 plus billion debt in 6 years. Where did it go? And like he mentioned, he also touched on another concept we call intertemporal decision making. The decision you make today, you want to enjoy today. You want to fly to Dubai. You want to do for the 8 days tour around the world watching football games. At what cost? Tomorrow, your children, your brother's children, relatives and others will now have money to even ride taxi from Broad Street to Finsbury. At least we'll talk about them following you to Dubai and other places. So it's a choice that we need to get away from. So whether the ECF is a solution, definitely it's just a temporary measure. When you are wounded, maybe you sprain your foot, you use crutches. The crutches is not a permanent leg. So while you're walking on the crutches, you got to be exercising your muscles to make sure that you don't become on crutches forever. That's why the doctors or even family will tell you, step on the foot, because you will not walk on crutches forever. So this movement of reprieve to balance our balance of payment, to have extra resources to maybe make intervention in certain economic ventures is intended like an oxygen treatment. Once your lungs begin to function, you take out the oxygen. It's not a long-term solution. It's a temporary measure. So the way you manage it in an emergency is important. I thought you think about you driving a car. You're driving a car and you notice that your tank is almost to zero. You're not going to be using AC. You're not going to be making unnecessary stuff. You will focus on getting to your destination. So under the program, the main message, in fact, we are broadcasting to the public, but mainly is to our public sector managers, managers of ministries and agencies, and federal government institutions. We have one last chance, one temporary measure to help us get by on our feet. In fact, it was because there is a new administration. They know that we are in the transition stage. They know that we were not responsible for the collapse of the 2019 program. And they saw that we demonstrated resolve based on some of the actions that were taken. Based on information that we provided and they verified through third parties triangulation. They say, yes, these people can be trusted. And finally, before I say the acting minister, the default or whatever, the default we are talking about, the first default is the one for 2024 debt scheduled payment. The one that are scheduled this year, they are current, we are current in the payment. Where the default happened was those ones that were scheduled in 2023. We are on schedule with the 2024 payments. Like I said, the only issue was the mismatch between transfer dates and due dates of our creditors. So you will see that by the end of the year, all of our debt scheduled for this year will all be paid. The ones that were scheduled for last year were the ones that were not paid. And we have to pay, we have to play catch up. Pay them up before we start payment for 2024 scheduled obligations. Acting minister, what I want to wonder. Well, this question is not strange. A lot of people are speculated. but I'm not the president of Liberia. The president has his choice, and for us, we are in a political appointed position, but we are basically technocrats. Even as I said, those who know me, how I work at the Ministry of Finance, anywhere, I speak and talk technically. I think you can hear from my presentation, I'm not into political gimmickry. So the president will make the choice, and whatever choice the president makes, I can tell you this, we are happy with it. In fact, I have worked with 4 different finance ministers. I work with Sire, I work with Minister Gafwan, I work with Minister Kone, and then I work with Minister Kamara 2 times. And all of them know our records, both our technical and bureaucratic records. Thank you.
So here's the acting Minister of Finance.
Thank you.
Mr.
So let me respond to the questions beginning with the last about injuring people in our raids. Our officers are now prepared or conditioned to injure people whenever they go out. One thing we have experienced is that usually at these raids, suspects will flee, and in that process, they get injured. But once we gain physical restraint of you, rest assured your rights are guaranteed. We're not going to treat you in ways that are dehumanizing. With the new judge's situation, it was an unfortunate situation because one, the officer that operation wasn't approved. We gathered that the same thing, they were sitting in a ghetto, and once the officers arrived, the guy was fleeing, he got injured, and he died for a robber. But the family sees something different, so we have to transfer that case to the LMP because the issue of a homicide investigation is within the province of the LMP, not the LDEA. We look for drugs, basically. What have we underestimated the threat? Our initial assessment informed us that we could go in, strike, and get out. But as we continue to review this situation and look at some of the public comments being made by CDC, we found out that they told the world that they were tipped off about coming, and no surprise, we saw how they were able to mobilize and resist the execution of this raid. Spillover, our operation did not spill over into the CDC perimeter wall. We had nothing to do with being that compound, but what did spill over is the attendant violence. We were pelted with stone, we were out of that vicinity by 5:45 in the morning, we were gone. Even the LP was in there. What happened on the Tottenham Boulevard, I think you can be the judge, because no police were there, no LDE were there between 5:45 to 6 o'clock. And the violence on the Tottenham Boulevard began just between 5:45 and 6 o'clock. Until LDE went to restore normalcy. The rate. You asked why we can, I don't know what rate you got. I mean, we didn't see any rate. In fact, on the execution of that raid that morning, we had 2 court officers. So I don't know who stole the raid. But we did apply for the raid, and we received raid signed and stamped by the Western Ministerial Court. Why we can publish the raid is because names of the subjects on our raid are still under surveillance and investigation. So we can show you, we can put the raid out, with jeopardize the entire, even though at some level it's already been jeopardized, but we're still looking at what we're looking at. We're still working on the joint security to see what decision will be eventually. So we still have the rates, and if the court calls us, I think that's the best place we could produce that rate, but not currently because it's still on a serious consideration of what we're looking at. Picture. They only want to do our work and make sure we get drugs from communities that are affected. The other agent is Agent Daniel Winnie. They are human beings. Are we not concerned about them too? Because they're stone. So thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. That takes me to proportionality. And I was thinking from reference method.
So my name is Nelson Freeman, and I'm the 102 at police. And I will jump on the question I have to do with the proportionality of our force. It's a good thing to think about proportionality, but we all have to know that we all are humans. We all have got rights, irrespective of the uniforms we're wearing. This is passionately speaking about this officer. Have you all thought about the officer who's in the hospital? Who's died? Who got broken? How many questions from the rioters you heard I got a fracture? But I got severe hearing. So if I would be honest with proportionality, I think we were down this time around. From Mr. And our arrest without warrants. In this instant case, we did not go to effect an arrest. This was a plain view doctrine. Crime must be committed in our clear eyes. Why are you saying? The police shoot for their hands? How are you going to be protected? Do you want us to sit back in the barracks? Do you want to sit by our headquarters and our cruiser officers and see the street at more? We're just doing this because we have to protect you. This is what we signed up for. And this is a statutory mandate. And we will do it again if it has to repeat itself. This is what we signed up for, and we are ready to keep the peace no matter what. Whether or not our presence exacerbated the situation, it comes back to the same thing. Okay. So I'm the operational director. Next time I'll give it a try. When people take to the street and start to throw stones, I will keep my guys at the police headquarters. Let me stay for 1 hour, 2 hours. Let me see the number of damages that will be caused. Probably you will be the same ones in the room asking for me to be dismissed. Yeah. But I can also be dismissed for commission, I can be dismissed for omission. Do you know that? I've got a duty to perform. My failure to perform my duty can cost me my job. Look, gentlemen, we're all Liberians. We're all citizens. We all have got rights in this country. We've got nothing against anybody whatsoever. But we have got a duty. We have to keep the peace. If you think you're going to infringe on the right of other road users, on the rights of other citizens, obviously the police will be out there to make sure you're protected. You got a right to demonstrate, for example. But everybody does not choose to demonstrate with you on the day you're demonstrating. Even you, the demonstrators, must be protected. Because you could come with a good intent. But other people jump among you because they want to make sure that your intentions are not accomplished. What do you expect us to do? Say, fold our hands? No, we are not going to put our hands. We're going to do what's required of us. Somebody said, attempted murder. I think we should be charging the people who almost killed my officers for attempted murder in army. My officer's tool is broken, he's staying in the hospital fighting for his life. So obviously, if you it's not the weapon you use, it's the degree of injury that is sustained. These officers sustained serious bodily injury that will have cost them their lives. What do you expect us to charge people with? Petty larceny? No. We charge you appropriately.
One was adopted.
In accordance. One was adopted and dragged in the fence. Look, gentlemen, let's get politics out of this. I'm not a politician, I'm a police officer. I've done this all my life for 26 round years. 26 years I've been a police officer. I've had the opportunity to serve in 4 of the counties in Liberia, Maryland, Nimba, Basso, as county commander. I've had the opportunity to serve almost all the key sections in the Liberian National Police. I've stayed out of politics. I've never voted for any political party. I stand for my code of conduct. I'm a police officer. My job is to keep the peace, and we'll continue to keep the peace as long as we're here. Somebody talk about police officers getting dismissed because they didn't wear a helmet. I mean, I appreciate that. In as much as we're trying to uphold the value of our institution, we're very much concerned about the conduct of our men. Because to enforce, we must uphold. I mean, you cannot say, don't do this, and you are the officer who's doing it. I heard you see what one of our old-time friends from Daily Observers, when we were young officers, they carry us all over the place. I heard you talking about the doctrine that speaks to what was it? You say violate to enforce. Well, that used to be your own culture where it doesn't exist. There's no reason why you should violate to enforce. To enforce, you must uphold. So those officers were never dismissed. Those officers have been warned. Those officers are cautioned to say, we are asking people to wear helmets, and you, the police officer, should be the one to set the example. If you fail to wear a helmet, of course, administrative actions will be taken. Yes, 2 officers were suspended for not wearing a helmet, but I think the suspension has not been lifted, and they resumed work. So they were not dismissed, and that doctrine about violation to enforce does not apply in this age and time. Basically, I don't know if I touched on everything else, and somebody said, well, our presence exacerbate the situation. Our presence should never exacerbate the situation, ladies and gentlemen. When you see the peace officer, you should be saying sanity. You should be saying peace. You should be feeling confident. That's why we are opening up to all of our actions. That's why we make sure the professional standard department is robust now in dealing with our own misconduct. We're out there. Watch us. Put the cameras on us. The last time was at Zone 3, a police officer almost got dismissed because he went after a guy who's there from school. He went after somebody from school who took his picture. And we said, why are you going after somebody who's taking your picture? Then being you're doing something that's not legit. Put the cameras on us. Watch our everyday dealings. We're not hiding. We don't have anything to hide. We're all here only because we're here. We pay because of your taxes, and we'll uphold the law to the fullest and ensure that there's sanity in this country. Thank you.
So it's 102 of the Liberian National Police giving out such a warning and of course encouraging media partners to do the day for. So we stay here at the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism. My name is WAEC Williams. On today's edition of Tourism Press Brief.
One of the things here is that it is important for all of us to be research oriented, as we also do information dissemination. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, despite all of the debt accumulated, all the challenges we are having, one major thing this government has done is to ensure that we have billion-term debt strategy to address some of the challenges we face in this country. Meaning the president approval is that any debt acquired, like Minister Meyer said, those days were actually used for investment purposes. So for this reason, go on the website of Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, you see the medium-term debt strategy. And also we have our annual borrowing plan to ensure that you forecast when you borrow ahead of time, you find not just going for any money. I know some people, you see that they will borrow money and use it to buy a car, and you see most of the big cars you used to see around, people are riding and money that they took for loan. And like that, it means you are just consuming, you're not investing. So you see the debt, medium-term debt strategy will tell you clearly where we'll go from here. And that's very much important. Some of you, even if you have a time, we can have a radio talk show to discuss with the Liberian public how we should manage our economy. It shouldn't be all about government. It should also be about private sector. That's the reason why we give opportunity to see that even there's a possibility that there can be a guarantee given to SOE. It should be for investment purpose that they can go borrow and say government will stand by you, borrow it to carry on investment to improve services, to the country. I want you to please engage our department, communication department, also engage the ministry as we do, public financial management awareness across the country. Lastly, to the journalists, we are encouraging economic reporting. If it's possible, I will say openly here that we want to have a special session where we engage the journalists on how we do economic reporting. There can be a way you interpret information and people understand it and actually misinform the public as well, cause problem. So when it comes to economic data, economic reporting, we want to encourage you if it's possible. I've discussed this informally, but I want to say publicly here that this is where our problem happens. Liberia's economic sensitivity is very low, political sensitivity is very high. Learning how to actually analyze why we make decisions, just how we are eating, what we produce locally, and what it means to import more food. If you understand and interpret it as a media practitioner, you go on the air and explain this, you improve the living standard of Liberian people. But we focus more on the political aspect, political sensitivity, we're not going to grow, we're not going to go anywhere. Thank you, Mr. Minister, for the 1 minute.
I'm sure Mr. Myers addressed the question that was also referred to me regarding the triple C, but I took interest in the fact that as a media community, they made an allegation that we have to know. They did say people who went to the Ministry of Finance to protest sent them by government. We don't know the reliance of the information. Thank you for that information. And to conclude, I sincerely believe that each of us need a kind of readjustment on what role we want to play to get this country that has been around for 177 years, but still looks the way it is. But they generally suggest that the presence of law enforcers escalate violence. Where is that thought process coming from? Like he said, we can just tell them one day, in the same environment, one protest is on. I say, you should not go there. And you see the difference between the presence of law enforcement and the absence of law enforcement. But the drama is, if you stay away, people get killed, things get damaged, you come back and criticize the same officer. What kind of country do we want? The fundamental responsibility of any government is to protect lives and property. And the people who are lawfully charged to do that on our behalf are police officers. There's lawlessness somewhere. People are causing unnecessary discourse, trying to trample upon the rights of others. They will go there. And they don't just go there kicking people out. Take, for example, people block the road when they tires. What are the police supposed to do? Go beg and say, please, when they tire from the road, when they say no, they say, okay, let's tell them until they tire everybody. Is that the country I want to see? That's government here. Not interested in going after anybody. Once you do lawful things, when you do unlawful things, the situation will be faced appropriately. And maybe many of you just stay here. Some of us will live in different places. But you can see what can happen in other places. You think some of the things you do here can happen in a place like America? Don't you see some of the violent actions there and what security forces can do? Do you know how many people die daily at the hands of law enforcement because they see some threat that they want to neutralize? The situation that took place at that place on that 22nd, whatever it was, we commended the guy for handling that situation in a way that didn't make us to see deaths. And most times you just don't care. Even if 20 police officers wounded, you can't answer about. Or you use violence against somebody, you don't care about them. You feel like what in the body. There are a lot of people, fathers and mothers. But you think because they eat the blue and white, you get big and sell available for anything. If you who are journalists can I even provide that consciousness that portrays the police for why it ought to be. And you use these events to demonize them. To make them to know that people who are in trouble, suggesting that something escalated because they went there. What kind of journalists are you then? Police is that arm of the government that ensures that we meet our fundamental obligation of protecting national property. We give them the support, we give them the space, and they will operate continuously within the confines of the law. And consistent with their own operational procedures. Of course, you know when somebody meets violence, they got to counter that violence. You know, you went to school, did your little science, says for every action, it's an equal number of
So, folks, he is Mr. Jeremy Matukia, the Minister of Information.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press,
ending
On behalf of the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, we'd like to commend
on a Tuesday.
the team from the Liberia National Police, the Liberia Drugs Enforcement Agency, and the Ministry of Finance for accepting our invite here to come at the Ministry of Information regular press briefing to speak to development